Rashid. I'm a research associate at SIGA. Dr. Saliha Uysal will be moderating this session. She's an assistant professor at Istanbul University of Theology Faculty, Psychology of Religion Department. She received her PhD in Psychology of Religion at Istanbul University in 2018. She's a member of Darul Funun Theology Journal Publication Committee. She's also a member of Board of Trustees at Qaim Foundation. She's leading guidance and consultancy, coordinatorship, and social assistance and support coordinatorship of theology faculty. We have only one person, Meryem Khan, who's going to join us in person. Rest of them are online, but I will introduce the speakers to you. We have got Noor Mohammad Osmani, Meryem Khan in person, Noor Fatima, who is going to join Meryem Khan. They're presenting the same paper. And then we have Hafsa, Ijaz, and Iman Mujahid. Yeah, you can start. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Saima, for a nice welcoming. And thank you for the invitation, Professor Al-Arian, and thanks to the organizers. I'd like to welcome all our guests warmly in a cold place, speakers and audience, and also people who are online at the moment. Today, we have got a very important session 4A. We are holding a session that represents the common problems of Islamophobia and the components of Islamophobia. We will listen to our speakers from different countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, and about Qatar. So we will see different points of views within a maybe common problem of Islamophobia, let's say fear of Islam. And it will be within the framework of case studies in atheism, secularism, nationalism, media, and gender. So we will conduct a joint thinking. I'm pretty hopeful, and I look forward to listening to our speakers. And I don't want to make it further increasing the curiosity, you know. I would love to listen to you. So I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Noor Mohammad Osmani. Is he online with us?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome, Mr. Noor Mohammad. We needed such a warm, yes, I'm here sentence. Mr. Osmani is an associate professor in the Department of Quran and Sunnah Studies at the International Islamic University in Malaysia. He obtained his PhD in 2002 from IIUM. He obtained honors and master's degrees from Bangladesh Islamic University. His research interest includes the Quran and Sunnah issues, Sirah of the Prophet, peace be upon him, interreligious faith, comparative studies on Quran and earlier Diwan scriptures, women issues, and so on. He has published a good number of articles in the reputed journals and presented papers in the conferences covering the range of Quran and Sunnah studies, Quranic narratives, fiqh and Sharia, Islamic finance, humanities, women empowerment. He speaks and writes in 4 different languages, namely Arabic, English, Urdu, and Bengali. He is currently the editor-in-chief of Al-Burhan, Journal of Quran and Sunnah Studies. We will listen to him with the title Atheism in Bangladesh and its impact on youngsters. Yeah, the floor is yours, Mr. Mohammed.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for inviting me and calling my name here. Alhamdulillah. Today I will be presenting here on this topic. I'm sharing this screen. I believe you can see it right now. Is my screen clear to you over there?
We will, inshallah, see within a few minutes.
Okay.
Yes, inshallah. Yeah, we are listening to you.
Okay, then alhamdulillah. This screen that I'm sharing, I think it will be coming over there. If not coming, it's okay also. No problem. The time limit, how much time I have?
Approximately 18 minutes to 20 minutes.
Okay,
you are lucky
no.
because one of the guests are not here with us.
Okay, no problem. No
not
problem.
More than that. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to talk about this atheism in Bangladesh and how it rised and what is the impact it is causing. Atheism, or denying the God. We know that this is a severe crime. Created by God and denying him, there is a severe crime. And this crime is being committed by many people in many countries, especially in un-Islamic countries, that is quite common. but denying God from the Muslim countries and rising it in somewhat order that is quite terrible. So in Bangladesh, also in our country, belong to Bangladesh. In our country, also there's atheism, or we can say irreligiousness, because atheism, the people don't say it like that, but they call it, maybe they were irreligious. They were not religious. They're not practicing. They used to say like that. So this atheism also, we have some people who were self-declared atheist. They declare to be atheist and they're proud of that because they say, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in creator, as if they were created by themselves. أم خلقوا من غير شيء أم هم الخالقون أم خلقوا السماوات والأرض بل لا يوقنون. Were they created by themselves or they were the creator? Have they created these heavens and the earth? The reality is that they do not believe in Allah's creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in the Quran, we know that in Surah Fussilat, Allah has mentioned clearly that إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا لَا يَخْفَوْنَ عَلَيْنَا أَفَمَنْ يُلْقَى فِي النَّارِ خَيْرٌ أَمْ مَنْ يَأْتِي آمِنًا يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ اعْمَلُوا مَا شِئْتُمْ إِنَّهُ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ بَصِيرٌ. Those who are rejecting the ayat of Allah, if they are rejecting the ayat of Allah, the Quranic ayat, or the evident signs of Allah that is apparent in Allah's creation, and they were making fun of the Quranic ayat, Allah says, I know them. And then Allah said, the one who will be thrown to the hellfire, is he better? Or the person who will come to the day of judgment safely, he is better. And definitely the one who will come safely, he is better. And Allah said, go ahead and do whatever you like to, because Allah is watching you clearly. In Surah Al-Zumar also, Allah has said very clearly what should be the ultimate destination for these atheists. Allah said it clearly in ayah number 60 and 61. وَيَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ تَرَى الَّذِينَ كَذَبُوا عَلَى اللَّهِ وُجُوهُهُمْ مُسْوَدَّةٌ أَلَيْسَ فِي جَهَنَّمَ مَثْوًى لِلْمُتَكَبِّرِينَ وَيُنَجِّي اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ اتَّقَوْا بِمَفَازَتِهِمْ لَا يَمَسُّهُمُ السُّوءُ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. On the day of judgment, you can see the people who denied Allah, their faces darkened, their faces black, it was made black. Is not Jahannam is sufficient for them to be their place of rest. Allah is preparing Jahannam for them, for these arrogant people. And for the muttaqeen, Allah will save them with success, and they will not be touched by any kind of bad things, or they will not be set. So these people who are muttaqeen, they will be given Jannah, inshallah. This is the result of the being muttaqi and denying God, and denying Quranic ayat, and denying the day of judgment. These people who denied God's existence, atheist, and they declare by themselves. This is going on in Bangladesh as well. We know that Bangladesh, we have around 165 million people, out of which we have 91% Muslim and 8% Hindus. And the rest of 1%, they are Buddhist, Christian, and others. And this atheism that is rising in Bangladesh through online media, blogging, social media, Facebook, and other avenues that they were coming up. And these atheists, they were termed to be anti-Islamist. By the Islamic people, they termed them, they were anti-Islamist, or they were attacking on his religious sentiments. And the secular people, they term them, no, they're enjoying their freedom. Because usually the people that are supposed to have their freedom in expressing their ideas, this is what the Western countries usually they propagate. And we find that this problem is occurring, and it continues to occur. This atheism is continuing to occur, and there are many killings taking place. Because in Bangladesh, if somebody declared atheist and they attack on Islam, they were not left free. They were attacked by the people, and some of them, they were led to flee the country They went to other countries. They started living either in India or maybe Western countries. They ran away because they were not let to stay in Bangladesh when they start attacking on Islam. And let us look at how this atheism started to emerge in the country. If we look at that this atheism in Bangladesh, usually these people, we cannot tell them, we cannot say all of them they were atheist. They can be said Islamophobist because they hate Islam. Many of these atheists, they go to India, they're not attacking other religion like Hinduism, Buddhism, and other religion they were not attacking. They were only attacking Islam. They were attacking Islamic fundamental values, fundamental principles, attacking on mu'jizat, on the day of judgment, the Prophet's Isra and Miraj, Jannah and Jahannam, and Hurul Ain, and male dominance in family. They were attacking on these fundamental issues which the Quran has established, Hadith of Prophet ﷺ has established. They try to disconnect Muslim youths and teenagers from Islamic beliefs. This is mainly their main target. When exactly it began, it is really tough to say. But when we look back to the history, we find some people, they, from time to time, they used to say something quite strange that is totally anti-Islamic. For example, this Lalan Shah. This man lived in 18th centuries and 19th centuries. This man was called to be idealist, utopian, and he also mocked at Islamic Sharia. He presented the idea of Pantheism because he lived in India at that time. And he talked about Pantheism. This is supporting Hinduism because they believe in all gods, that God is manifested in everything, and we are allowed to worship everything. That they want to make everything their God. And also he preached for religious pluralism. There is no harm in this because we all believe that all religions, they should live together peacefully and with peace of mind and helping each other. There is no problem in this. And also there are Christian missionaries and Hindu reformists. They also lived in Bangladesh. And these people tried to spread their Christianity and Hinduism. And there were debates taking place between Muslims and with them. Through these debates, though they could not get the mind of the people, but we find that they were able to spread mischievous things, false things about Islam, about the religion, about the Quran, about the Prophet. They were able to spread it, and some of these things established in the minds of people. So they were able to spread anti-Islamic sentiments to the people. And also secular nationalists, we find that these people, they were rising as well. After the World War II, there was terrible famine took place in the country. The people became extremely poor, and they were suffering from food. They were committing a lot of crimes. And at that time, these secular nationalists grabbed the opportunity. They invited them towards economic freedom, economic solvency, and also political freedom. They said this is more important than becoming religious. Forget about religion, come back to economic solvency. So people, they listened to them and they got the chance and made many people secular, those who don't believe in religion properly. And they were saying that this religion, this personal matter, because they were secular, and this religion should not be propagated openly. This can be done only in the masjid, not outside the masjid. We can find that these anti-religious sentiments that was growing in the country in 60s and 70s. But the common people, they did not accept it. The common people did not accept that. And among the famous atheists in the country, we find that there was one man called Arojali Matobor. This man, he lived in 20th century. And this man, basically, he was, when his mother died, it was reported that when his mother died, at that time, some people took the photo of his mother. She was a dead lady at that time. They took the photo and the people took it seriously. They denied to pray janazah for her. And this led Arojali Mathabur to become anti-Islamic. He was attacking on Islam, on Sharia, on many matters. So this man also can be regarded to be one of the anti-Islamic or anti-religious person or atheist. The most famous man, the one who became extremely famous, that is the poet Dawood Haider. This man, he's still living. He's born in 1952 and is still living in Germany because he was sacked from the country. He was not allowed to live in the country, and he left the country because in 1973, in February, he wrote a poetry attacking on Prophet Muhammad, on Prophet Isa and Buddha, meaning attacking all the religions. He wrote a poem and he published it in one of the dailies, Daily Shangba. So after this, there was a huge protest in the country because at that time, commonly the people, they were religious. They did not allow this kind of writing to take place. So this man at that time, he was expelled from the country. He lived in India from 73 until 87. And after that, he has to move away to Germany, and he's living there until now. So this man is one of the famous atheists in the country. There are some others, like the Sliva Nasreen. I think many of you perhaps know her. She's living now in India. She is also living until now, from 60 until now. And there was another young man, Asif Mahiuddin. This man, he's from 84, and he's living also in Germany because of his anti-Islamic or atheistic belief. Because of that, in age 13, he declared to be an atheist. Subhanallah, you can imagine that in age 13, he declared to be an atheist. What a terrible thing. And in 2010, he organized a convention for all the atheists in the country. And he claimed that there were a total of 34 youths joined the convention. And they said they were all atheists. This man has done that. And after that, he left the country and he got asylum in Germany and living there. And beside him, there are many others as well, like Ahmad Sharif, Humayun Azad, and many others. There are many other people who were given asylum in Germany, in Sweden, in France, in other countries, they were given asylum. And this atheism is spreading in Bangladesh. We find that before 2006 until 2007, there was not much people that they declared to be atheist. This thing was coming only after that there are some people who were declaring that they were atheist and they were getting attached to one another. It is basically because of internet, wide accessibility, that people can write whatever they like to. They can create blogs by themselves, and they can spread their views. And they were mentioning all nasty things onto internet and through their blogs and other media. So from this time, we find that the people, they were writing. And many of them, they were writing by using a fake ID, not by using their names, because they were afraid. Maybe the people, they may attack on them. So they were using fake ID. And with that fake ID, they were writing about atheism and rejecting Islam and rejecting Allah. Ma'adallah min dhalik. And these atheists, they spread the rumors. And they were the one who called that religion is a virus. And if the religion is there, then no country can develop or flourish. If you follow the religion, you're going back to the 14th centuries backward. And these people can be called as they were militant atheists. They were militant atheists because they were not allowing religion, Islamic politics, Islamic economics, or Islamic people to spread Islamic things. So they could be said as militant people. How many percent of them are atheists right now? If we look at that, we find that not many people, they were declaring that they were atheist. And some people, they were declaring that they were irreligious. Irreligious doesn't mean that they were atheist. Irreligious means they were not performing prayer. Maybe this also means even they were not coming to Jummah prayer. Because usually the person who is coming to Jummah prayer, he doesn't call him irreligious. He believes he's religious now because he comes to Jummah prayer once a week. But this is not the true message that we can say, because the religious means he is following religion correctly. In one of the Gallup poll in 2009, 99% of Bangladeshi population, they claim that the religion is one of the important part of their life, meaning religion Islam is part and parcel of their life. They mention it. So Bangladesh is to be number 1 in the Gallup poll of America. They've done it. So the developed countries, usually they were, they don't have this religion attachment, but the less developed countries, usually they were attached with the religion. Another poll, in the Gallup poll again in 2014, it was seen that 7% of the population declared that they're really irreligious. To me, irreligious means that they were not even coming to pray Jummah. Perhaps they were coming to pray Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha only twice a year, but this doesn't make them religious, because I believe the common masses, they believe when they come to Jummah prayer, they are still religious. Let them believe like that, but this is not true. To be a religious person, he must follow Islam correctly and must pray all 5 times a day. Otherwise, he's not religious. Astonishingly, in another poll of 2017 of Gallup poll, 19% of the people, they declared that they are irreligious, meaning they don't bother about religion. They don't come to masjid. They don't come to pray. They declared that 19%. So you can imagine from 2009 until 2007, around 19% of the people, they became religious, meaning this irreligiosity is rising terribly in the country. Irreligiousness is rising in the country, that the people, they're getting detached from religion. They're getting detached from religion, and this is natural the moment we are approaching to the last days of this world. Usually the people, they will go back to the Jahili system and they will not follow their religion. What is the reason of this irreligiosity among the people? It may be because of unending propagation of atheistic beliefs, because they are writing constantly. If you open the internet, if you open the social media, you find a lot of things. And also failure of political Islam in Muslim countries. Many countries, they became failed. For example, look at some countries, the Islamic parties, they came to power, but suddenly they fell. They could not continue. And there is huge internal conflicts among the religious clerics. They're fighting among each other. And also government is torturing and murdering the religious figures. This is continuing in many countries, Muslim countries. And also anti-Islamic propagation of secular elements in the countries. This is creating lack of religion among the people. There are many types of atheists we find here, like pro-Indian. They were supported by the Indian people, Hinduism, and among them, those people who were living in India, like Taslima Nasreen, Asad Noor, and Abdullah Masood from Bangladesh, they are living there. European atheists, as I mentioned to you, there are Asim Mahiuddin and many others. They were living in Germany and many other countries, like Onan Nazad, Shami Haq. They were living in Germany, others living in Sweden, others living in France. And Asif created this Shongshoy.com. This website is creating a lot of troubles to Islam and Muslim. And also there is philosophical atheism. One man, he's Purvis Alam, he's writing philosophically, that trying to convince the people without declaring he's atheist, but he's attacking on Islam. Like he wrote a book in on Medina, in which he attacked on Hijrah, Medina, and Qiyamah. He wrote many things about that. Awami atheists, meaning they are ruled by the government, supported by them, and these people, there are many people supported by the government, and they also became atheists. There are feminists. These feminists also, they became atheists because they don't bother about the religion. They believe religion is detaching them from their rights, and women should be equal with the men. And there are many people like Nadia Islam, Tashnuba, Shishir, and many others. So we find all these things that they're creating trouble to the country and to Islamic belief. And this is really creating a terrible impact on the people of Bangladesh, on the religious people, youngsters and teenagers. They're becoming irreligious. And the girls, for example, teenage girls, later on, they might be affected. So in coming 10, 20 years, we don't know what is going to happen. Maybe that will have a terrible impact because of this open internet, open media. I believe this kind of impact will continue. So with that, I want to thank you all. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Noor Mohammad, keeping the time. MashaAllah, just at the last moment he finished. Thank you very much for a brilliant presentation. Now I'd like to invite Noor Fatima online and Meryem Khan to the floor. Noor Fatima from International Islamic University as head of the International Relations and Political Science Department. Her area of interest is public policy analysis, international political economy and globalization. She has completed her higher education in the Federal Republic of Germany and the United States of America. She has been honored with one of the highest civil awards of the USA, the Martin King Luther Award 2018 in Washington, D.C. by the Ministry of Education, United States, and she has been awarded a Public Policy Award winner 2022 by Policy Institute. Policy Pack Michigan State University has recently selected her in their program of Aspiring Women Educational Leaders 2023. And Meryem Khan works for SIGA, and she's a PhD candidate at Istanbul Sabahattin Zaim University. She worked as a content writer at the U.S. Embassy Pakistan's Lincoln Corner and as a visiting lecturer at the International Islamic University in Islamabad. She worked as a research associate at Islamabad's Institute for Policy Studies and as a news editor for Orsam Turkey. She's researching the populist radical right in the EU for her thesis. Her publications include Islam and Terrorism, Perceptions and Reality, a study of post-9/11, religio-political discourse, Maarif Research Journal, and again 9/11, the US immigration laws and their implications on Muslims, International Journal of Discrimination and the Law. Meryem Khan will present the rise of Islamophobic populism in India, a case study of Indian Radical Right Party. I don't know how to pronounce, but Bharatiya Janata Party, I think. She will present it. The floor is yours, Meryem.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Am I audible? Is it working?
I can hear, but the audience, is it clear?
Thank you
Yeah,
so
clear,
much,
clear.
Okay.
Ms. Saliha. And thank you so much for coming again to this session. So before starting, let me give you a little bit of background or backdrop of the day and a half we spent looking into Islamophobia from different regional and global perspectives. We tried to define it and coming to a consensus that basically Islamophobia is hatred and bias against Muslim. And all of us believed, and we still believe, that Islamophobia is the most pernicious form of racism in 21st century. So where the anti-Muslim discrimination becoming the force for the fascist authoritarian movements from Europe to Asia and the United States. It's just an observable fact that wherever you find Muslims and minority, you'll find a political movement which is drawing its power by vilification and scapegoating the Muslims. From mass extermination of Rohingya in Myanmar, from mass incarceration of Uyghurs in China or India and Kashmir, these atrocities are driven by anti-Muslim stereotypes and tropes that posit that Muslims are anti-democratic, anti-patriotic, and prone to violence. And this multi-billion Islamophobia industry is spreading Islam as a threat or fear, according to Nathan Land, the author of Islamophobic industry. Talking specifically of India, once, these fringe talking points by the media, like Muslims cannot be Indians, or their hearts are Pakistanis, or the man with beard cannot be trusted on borders, or that Islam is a threat to Hinduism, these extremely fringe ideologies are becoming now main course political discourse in India. And more than that, they're just drawing into laws which are discriminating against the Muslims. So the question is that how these fringe memes or talking points are becoming mainstream political discourse, and who is behind these toxic, divisive ideologies. So one thing is clear, that we cannot tackle Islamophobia without understanding it, that where it is coming from. So we have to find the source of Islamophobia. Therefore, the study we present today, we believe that the populist radical right parties has a very strong relationship with Islamophobia. And we also observe that the research on populist radical right has surpassed the research on all other categories of ideological parties. However, the non-European political parties remained widely, ignored. So what we do, we basically adopt an qualitative ideational approach to present the Indian radical right political party, Bharatiya Janata Party. In addition to this, we also present the rise of Islamophobic policies and as a marketing strategy employed by the party leader Narendra Modi and to the party doctrine in the largest democracy on the planet. So talking of democracy, it reminds me of Alexis de Tocqueville's description on majority rule. He used to call it the tyranny of majority. And by the tyranny of majority, we can basically depict that we are confronted the worst aspects of democracy these days. In social democracies from United States to European Union, from South Asia, populism is on rise. So what is populism and what is radical right and what it has to do with Islamophobia in India? Just briefly define what populism is. Populism is basically the first foremost set of ideas characterized by resentment, which characterize on the resentment between the people and elite. This ideology considers that there is an ultimate divide in the society between the homogeneous and the elite. So the ideology considers that society is basically, the politics should be presented or should be expressed on the basis of the general will of the people. And obviously, why they are not presented on the general will of people? Because of the immoral elites. This is a thin-centered ideology, and populism, you will find populism alongside with different thick ideologies like left, right, and other thin ideologies like nationalism. So if a party is leftist party or a rightist party or nationalist or regionalist, it cannot be simply populist alone. Populists present themselves being on mission to restore the power usurped by elites and the rightful honors to the people. They do this by establishing people-elite dichotomy. So the left populist and the right side of populists, they both believe in the same sort of notion when it comes to people and elite. But when we talk about the radical right populists, they have to offer something else. So what they add a primary term which is called others. And what is this others? It's basically the people who doesn't belong to the land where the people stays. And this primary term others is possessing a serious threat to the people of the pure land. If we talk about the Western discourses, the others were used for the immigrants, particularly Muslims after 9/11, but it can also be used for the people who are receiving welfare benefits, Romani communities, communist sympathizer, or the groups with different ethnicities, different religious identities, or different belief system. So as a result, populist radical right favors authoritarian policies that aims that the order should be imposed on the society, combat by perceiving the threats on the populace from harmful others. So Karlsruhe, who was a professor of international relations, he basically called it a populist heartland. So a heartland is a place where pure people are living without the interference of others and elites under the authoritarian regime. And now we have to see that how these ideas were adopted or these ideas are aligned with the BJP rhetoric. So before discussing BJP, we have to dig down into the roots of BJP, which lies in Hindutva and Hindu nationalism, which date back at 1905, when in Bengali Swadeshi movement, Sumit Sarkar and Bipin Chandra, basically, they observed that the Congress should publicly center itself to Hindu alone. And these Hindus were, that Congress should be only for Hindus. As union with the Muslim is a fantasy. So this pure people propaganda was then taken by Vinayak Damodkar Savaskar, and he systemized it and advocated Hindutva. So this is also called cultural nationalism, and it was established in 1923. With the noteworthy exception of Muslims and Christians who do not view India as their sacred land. So, systematically, they were trying to, link their society with Hindu nationalism. So for that, they basically created another thing, which was called National Voluntary Group, or today we know as RSS. And it was created in 1925. Mr. Gowalkar, who was heading it from 1940 to 1970s, he basically expanded Savarkar's idea. Hindu nationalism and RSS became, a collation for spreading Hindu nationalism to the society. Gowalkar referred Muslims and Christians as aggressive forces, and he which continues to affect Hindu nationalist group of Sangh Parivar. Sangh Parivar is basically the Hindu family. He believes that the land of Hindus belongs to only those who are having blood ties together. So all Hindus claim to have the blood of great race combined with derived from the Vedic ancestors in their bloodstream. As a result, Savarkar adopted the fundamental principles of radical right populism, such as Hind for Hindus only, identity politics, pure land for pure people only, and Sangh Parivar created a lot of its businesses, educational institutions, religious group, think tanks, political parties, and BJP was one of its products. So this is how nationalism was systematically incorporated in the society. Looking down into Bharatiya Janata Party, it was created in 1980s, and when it was created, it basically dissolved Bharatiya Janata Society, which was a part of Sangh Parivar. It famed, so in the starting, it was, its pace was really slow, and in 1984, it just won 2 seats in the lower, in the assembly, in the lower house. But the fame of Bharatiya Janata Party was, it was increased because of the Barbari Masjid incident. So Hindu basically claims that this masjid in Ayodhya was erected in early 16th century, and it was built on the site of previous Hindu shrine commemorating the origins of Hindu divinity, divine Lord Rama. So this protest took over 2,000 people, but BJP got a blow, and their influence was really increased after this. If we talk about the Islamophobic ascent in the India, and especially in the domestic policies, we basically know that BJP administration take the cues from Hindutva doctrine and Hindu nationalism, and its policies, enacted policies that primarily benefit Hindus only at the expense of other groups. So we will not be able to look down into the policies of BJP since the advent of BJP, but because Modi Sarkar provides a lot of data for this research, so I'm just trying to focus on that. Narendra Modi, he took his office in 2014 as the 14th Prime Minister of India, and he basically wanted to implement Gujarat model over whole India. So in keeping an anticipation from right-wing populist leader, he basically attacked the Congress party during the campaign. He called them corrupt elite. He railed against the obvious others, casting out the Bengalis and predominantly Muslim immigrants. He basically in a rally said that, note this down, these Bangladeshis will be sent beyond the boundaries with their bags after 16th of May. So Modi being part of Gujarat incident and taking over 2,000 lives, this whole incident was ignored by the mainstream media during the campaign for election in 2014. From criminalizing beef consumption to public lynching of Muslims, from Triple Talaq Act to ban on hijab, saffronizing the educational institutions, BJP remained consistent in torturing Muslims with discriminatory laws. Including that, on August 5, 2019, Modi upturned the special status granted to Jammu and Kashmir under the Article 370 and made entire Constitution of India applicable to the state. This implied the Article 35A stood abolished. The article preserved the state distinct demographic identity, since the Indian administrated Kashmir is the only Muslim majority area, and the Kashmiris now suspect that Hindu nationalist organizations are encouraging Hindu migration to the state. Given this underpinned relations with India, there have been revolt against Indian authorities in the regions since 1979, and we can see that there are a lot of the separatist movements going on in Arunachal Pradesh, in Assam, and we also know about the Khalistan movement. But this all things were going on when Modi pinned down, he basically stripped 4 million citizens under the Citizen Amendment Act in 2019. In defense of CAA as a discriminatory intent, BJP officials have stated that there is a fundamental distinction between a refugee and an illegal immigrant. So to establish a national electoral coalition, Modi and BJP basically discourses intertwine on the populist and nationalistic logic. It sought to capture and reinforce the intense disillusionment with Congress-led government as a corrupt elite and of their poor performances. The discourse presents that Modi as an outsider of Delhi, isolated from elite class, is a common man from a backward class, has placed himself alongside with the underdogs, just a position with the power of powerful elites. So by situating people in opposition to elites and discoursing upon the others, and drawing some policies which are discriminatory to Muslims, this doesn't stop on only domestic policies. The view of people as disadvantageous and Hindus only for India, this has been also applied to the foreign policy. Dr. Noor will present on foreign policy, so I'll request Dr. Noor to proceed.
Thank you very much, Meryem. Am I audible?
Yes, we are listening to you. The rest 10 minutes are for you.
Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Professor Saleh and my fellow presenters. Assalamu alaikum and very good evening. Thank you, Meryem, for presenting the most of the concepts of the Hindutva and also the how the BJP is using the Islamophobia. My presentation is visible to you? My presentation is visible to you? No,
unfortunately not yet, but I think they'll solve it.
I will. Now it is.
Now,
it is
yes,
shared.
it is. Almost.
Is it there?
It is.
Okay. So I will talk about the foreign policies of the BJP and how they have used this Islamophobia to marginalize the Muslims and to inculcate his ideology to the other states also. So PM Modi believes that foreign policy should be decided by the people, not by some politicians in Delhi, portraying the people as a voiceless and disenfranchised by elites foreign policy. As Meryem explained, that he has used this kind of a terminology for crafting his foreign policy. By equating these born to rule elites with the foreign others, the populist Hindutva discourse reinforces the antagonism between the people and such elites. This discursive strategy conflates the elite and the foreign others and depicts them as a collective menace to the people. This is how he is trying to be successful. By invoking the foreign others, Modi and the BJP invoke a discourse of foreign policy that reproduces collective sense of self via modes of othering, differentiation and exclusion that constitute specific objects as foreign, and thus he inscribes the boundaries and identifies of himself. Through such boundary-producing political performance, the populist Hindutva discourse seeks to construct a homogeneous, secure, and strong Hindu nation state through the externalization of differences and danger. That's how he creates the others and accuses them of preventing or threatening the realization of a strong and monolithic Hindu identity. He successfully established a link between the Congress Party, and which is another party in India, and the British colonial rulers by stating that Congress emerged a vote bank politics, and that they have learned the art of divide and rule well from the colonial rulers. Therefore, the nation should unite against the Congress the way it got united during the freedom movement. Therefore, the Congress and other so-called secularists are are India's true enemies, and who are clearly funded by foreign agencies. This has also corrupted India's foreign and security policy, as the populist Hindutva discourse asserts. So he has also introduced the India's first policy, in which he assumes, while he assumes in office in 2014, the Modi administration used India's foreign policy to perpetuate the populist national electoral coalition that brought it to power by establishing a close connection between India foreign policy and and particularly representation of India as a Hindu nation, as well as between Modi and the people, whereas you know that India has been for long claiming as a secular state. Through India First policy, he is promoting of Hindu internationalism and projecting himself as a common man's prime minister in foreign affairs. India's first dealing with India's enemies from a position of this strength. Despite the confrontation rhetoric during his election campaign, Modi has initially shown himself ready to engage with Pakistan by inviting PM Nawaz Sharif at that time, traveling to Pakistan, reinitiating comprehensive dialogue process in December 2015, but Modi government moved from stated position to a policy of gradually escalation to better respond to Pakistan provocation and aggression. Modi policy of defensive, offensive, because India needs strategic power over Pakistan to raise the cost of anti-Indian actions. In keeping with this policy, the border security forces are given permission to fire at will and with full force, even at the slightest Pakistani provocation. Though Prime Minister Narendra Modi administration has long seen criticism for discriminating against India's esteemed 200 million Muslims, tension between this large minority and Hindu nationalists who supports Modi's ruling BJP have been mounting in recent years. Now the hostility have moved outside of the India's border. Antagonism towards Muslim by supporters of Indians right wing, Hindu nationalist governments have gone global, and the international spread of domestic prejudices is causing diplomatic ripple effects for India's allies also. India has an old and deep relationship with Gulf countries. Some 8.5 million Indians are working in the Gulf countries, and also they are sending $35 billion back. But at the same time, of course, the domestic and foreign policies are not insulated. Though on making a blasphemy remarks on Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the Indian official of the Ministry of Foreign Ministry was sacked, and pressure came from Saudi government as well as from Qatar to apologize. And this is just their Indian Foreign Ministry's notification for sacking up of that official. And if I conclude, I would say that Indian secularism is under big question. Hindutva ideology and use of Islamophobia and rise of Sangh Parivar, as explained by Meryem, is an important source of Indian discrimination against Muslim community. Anti-Muslim sentiments is rising among Hindus, not all Hindus and all people who voted for the BJP are anti-Muslim, but Muslims and Hindus, including activists, legal scholars, and students, have fought against the BJP's move to undermine Indian secularism through Hindutva and using Islamophobia for this purpose. BJP quest for power through hatred act of 2019 given Indian citizen to the illegal immigrants who came from Muslim states to India before 31st December 2014. Like Bangladesh, and Myanmar, exclusive to the members of 6 religious minority communities: Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Bauds, and Parsis and Christian. This Citizen Act excluded Muslim community, which shows nothing but Islamophobia. Islamophobes do not want the Muslims to be part of India, and often preachers of Hindutva ideology call for genocide of the Muslim in India. Hindutva ideology and use of Islamophobia is tarnishing also the Indian image in the world. Many foreign governments and international bodies have condemned the BJP's discrimination of Muslims, citing action in Kashmir, the Citizen Amendment Act, and anti-Muslim rhetoric as Islamophobia by BJP and Prime Minister Modi. Thank you very much for your patience. I hope I'm on time.
Thank you, Noor Fatima, for your brilliant presentation, especially giving us the rise of Islamophobic populism in India. Now our speakers are Hafsa Aijaz and Iman Mujahid. Are they online with us? Mr. Yunus? Yes, okay. Hafsa.
Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon. My name is Iman Mujahid. And should I begin?
Dear Iman, I'd like to give a little bit information about you.
Sure.
Allow us kindly.
Yes, sure.
Welcome again. Iman Mujahid is currently completing her BS in Political Science from Kinnaird College, Lahore. She has published her research papers on digital platforms like Paradigm Shift and in the journal Balochistan Think Tank Network. She has also presented her research papers at international conferences at the University of Lahore and Kinnaird College, Lahore. Her areas of interest lie in security and strategic studies, diplomacy, governance, public policy, foreign policy, and global politics. She's going to present us with the title Anti-Muslim Rhetoric in International Media, a case study of FIFA Qatar World Cup 2022. The floor is yours, dear Iman.
Thank you. So the topic of my presentation is the anti-Muslim rhetoric in international media, a case study of FIFA Qatar World Cup 2022. And this paper was written by Hafsa Aijaz, who is my senior, and one of our teachers, Miss Amna Gilani. So I'll just begin with it. So introducing the topic to you, we know that, in the modern times, in this globalized world, the political media and the nexus of public opinion that has been generated over the years is very prominent. And Islamophobia is one of those discussions that has, nurtured through media, and it has shaped public opinion vastly. And the event of 9/11, no doubt, played a very important role in enhancing the whole discussion of Islamophobia. And recently, we just witnessed the FIFA World Cup that took place in Qatar 2022, which again revealed the Islamophobic, the Islamophobic projection of Muslims and the anti-Muslim rhetoric that was generated in the Western media. Is it okay if I don't, switch on my video?
Okay, and we would love to see the other pages as well on your presentation after the video.
Oh, okay. I think it's stuck. I'm moving it, but I think it's not visible to you. Wait, I'll fix it.
Still see the first page. Now introduction part.
Okay. So coming to the research question. So the major research questions upon which my research is based is that, how the Western media has covered the FIFA World Cup that was hosted by Qatar. And secondly, I'll be talking about why the Western media is criticized over the Islamophobic content that it reported during the FIFA World Cup. And the third is that what is the role of politics on Western media's depiction of Muslims. So coming to the major point, which is the Western media coverage. So we see that the role of Western media in covering the Qatar World Cup was very manipulative, very biased, and very selective. And how I can substantiate my statement is by presenting certain facts to you. The first one of which is that we all know that Qatar is a Muslim country, and Qatar respected its traditional values. It's, the Arab culture, the rich Arab culture that it has, and the religious attachment that it has with Islam. And in this context, Qatar chose to open the World Cup ceremony in the name of Quran, in the recitation of Quran. But what happened was that BBC chose not to on air the opening rituals, which shows that, how selective they were in their reporting. And not only is this, but we see that French news outlets played a very negative role in creating hatred towards Muslims, as they made caricatures and cartoons where the Qatar footballers were depicted as terrorists. So you see how the stereotypical ideology and the Western media has the same Oriental approach, and we observe it during the FIFA World Cup. We also see that I've also attached this picture. I'm sure you guys can see this, where we see that some of British men entered the stadium dressed up as crusaders, and they were hailed, they were glorified, and they were, the Western media was actually glorifying them, that, wow, you have entered the Muslim country by, just entering there as crusaders. But in fact, if we just critically analyze the whole situation, we see that how the main agenda of enhancing the sporting spirit to commemorate the fact that Qatar has been chosen from amongst all the Muslim countries to host World Cup, the whole attention was diverted towards Muslims being, terrorists, or they were being, targeted, or they were being constantly considered as, the source of hatred and security threat to all the world. And we also see that the French media compared the Qataris to terrorists. And why they did so was because they believed that Qatar had a huge role to play in violating human rights. We'll talk about that further. And they also, a very common, discussion that was prevalent in Western media was about the xenophobic cliches regarding to, the entire culture of Qatar, where they delivered statements like, oh, there are too many mosques in Qatar, the women are oppressed, they are very extremists, they are terrorist people, they do not allow, women to move around freely, they do not allow drinking alcohol, they are very conservative, they are very primitive, they do not support LGBTQ rights. So, such kind of statements were very much prevalent in Western media without understanding the cultural context of Qatar, without, actually giving out both sides of the story. The Western media was only trying to impose what it wanted to show, rather than also digging deep in what the Qatar culture, the religion affiliation of the Qatar people and the state overall. So another event that captured the attention of the people was when the Moroccan team won the match, and we saw that how it was that historic moment, that, the historic picture where the Moroccan player clinged on to his mother in happiness, in victory, and then, they bowed their heads down in prostration. But this act of, utter love towards the creator was also mocked by the Western media. And statements like, very weird statements were given by Western media. We see that, the Denmark media outlet gave a statement, and they compared the Moroccan players with monkeys clinging on to their moms, which is of course very negative and not a good gesture. And at the same time, the German television also compared the Moroccan team to the ISIS terrorist organization, which is again without any evidence, without any strong base. You cannot impose accusations on others. So let's talk about the accusations that were actually raised upon Qatar. So Qatar was accused of, exploiting the rights of the workers, of the migrant workers who work there. And Western media made a whole show out of it. Denmark, Germany, France, that is the primary reason why all these states were against the World Cup that was hosted by Qatar. But we need to understand here that we do understand that, yes, Qatar has many, problematic laws regarding the migrant workers. the kafala system that is prevalent there is very problematic. But we also need to understand that since 2010, when Qatar was given this opportunity to host FIFA World Cup, it made many huge changes in its institution and its kafala system. And International Labour Organization as well as USA appreciated Qatar for bringing about these changes, but Western media paid no heed to the advancements that were made by Qatar, and they only focused on the negative sides. They exaggerated the number of workers who were killed during the construction of the stadiums, and statements like "align your labor laws with international standards" were chanted during the football matches, which again is a symbol of how you are trying to divert the attention of people from the sport to their identity, to you're just trying to make them feel inferior by using the media power that you have. And secondly, Qatar was also criticized for not supporting the LGBTQ rights. Qatar was very clear since the beginning that it would not promote such activities or such slogans or such actions. And it refused to display the slogans of one love. But Germany and Denmark were completely against it. Denmark, in fact, the Denmark team wore black jerseys. The Denmark people who were there for watching the football match, they wore black jerseys as a symbol of not feeling connected with the football, with the FIFA World Cup that was taking place in Qatar. But at the same time, this question arises that if Denmark, if Germany are so much against Qatar for not looking after the rights of the workers, for not looking after, the rights of the LGBTQ, where are these countries when Israel, incites violence on Palestinians? Because Denmark was completely quiet when they had a match with Israel. Is this so that they were blind to the atrocities that Israel inflicted upon Palestinians, or are they selective in their activism towards human rights? So this definitely raises a question, and this very blatantly shows that how there is a systemized and institutionalized effort to sideline Muslims through media. And Qatar World Cup is a clear manifestation of how all these policies were implemented by the Western powers through their media, and of course through their people as well, because it's the media that shapes public opinion. So I'll be talking about now I'll be talking about the politics and the World Cup. So as I said that, Qatar was criticized for not looking after the migrant workers, their rights and all that stuff. But then let's be honest, even in 2018, when the football match was hosted by Russia, there was a lot of hue and cry about the, exploitation of the rights of the workers. But at that time, Western media was quiet. No one created a fuss out of it. Denmark, Germany were completely a part of it. In fact, even the recent Olympics that took place in Beijing, West being a clear, being the harbinger of human rights and liberalism, is very much hostile towards China and its authoritarian regime. But it did not create any hostility towards it, despite the fact that China was inflicting mass genocide against the Uyghur Muslims. So it completely shows that, how the Western media has selective approach in choosing their, a priority of human rights, and they are definitely very much biased towards the Muslims. Not only is this, but we also see that FIFA World Cup is we also see that Qatar was criticized for bribing FIFA to grab the opportunity to host this World Cup. But we need to understand that this controversy also arose at the time when Russia was the host of the FIFA World Cup in 2018. So the matter here is that the countries are not supposed to be blamed. It's not Qatar who bribed FIFA. In fact, it is probably an institutional challenge that exists within FIFA. that is not being talked about, but the Western media only, focused upon Qatar snatching this opportunity from the Western countries of hosting the World Cup. Besides this, we also see that, Israel has inflicted so many human rights violations against Palestinians, but no one talks about it. But when it comes to Qatar, despite the fact that Qatar clarified everything, it did agree to the fact that yes, many killings did take place, and they also admitted to the fact that yes, there were some problems in terms of the wages of the employees. But despite of this, there was a lot of exaggeration in the Western media. And we see, when we talk about the Western media and the anti-Muslim rhetoric, events like the Christchurch event, I'm sure all of you remember, when there was a white-skinned person who entered a mosque and killed so many Muslims, he was considered as a mentalistic person. He was absolved of the being a symbol of terrorist or, a security threat. But when we talk about the Qatar World Cup, we see that how human rights violation is not something that was done by Qatar only. Over the years, so many countries have been doing that, and despite the fact that international organizations have been supporting Qatar on this, it was still considered a symbol of threat. Not only this, let's talk about Qatar World Cup in cultural context and media. So, whenever we go to West, we are expected to behave the way they are. West always stands for the values of freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and do what you like. But when Qatar, respecting its culture, put forth its rules and regulations, West believed that it was something that they should not follow. Just because the rules and regulations of a place are not as per your choice does not mean that they are wrong. So this is what, the Western media, the Western world needs to realize. And on these accounts, a very anti-Muslim rhetoric was created, caricatures were made, and they were, completely ridiculed. And yes, as I mentioned, that political motives by the football players and public in general were depicted as the policies adopted by their states, and the role of media in this is very important. And so I've already discussed this. So coming to the recommendations, I would like to say that, the Muslim blog, the OIC, should play a very important role. It should emerge as a strong blog in countering the Islamophobic tendencies or the Islamophobic rhetoric that is created by the Western media. We need to be a strong bloc to counter that, because Islamophobia, the anti-Muslim rhetoric, and the Western bloc is very strong. We need to unite together to, deal with it. And it cannot be done only by Turkey. It cannot be done only by Qatar. It cannot be done only by Pakistan. We all need to get together as a single unit. And of course, coming to media, the media should be impartial, should be unbiased, as I mentioned, with facts, that how BBC was so biased in reporting. It was so selective. How, Western media not paying heed to the cultural context of a country, to the religious context of a country, just glamorized their culture by insulting Qatar and, without substantiating their facts. And of course, the Western media should avoid insensitive racist remarks towards other communities, like they did with, Muslims and the different communities who came to play the football. And yes, so this is all from my side. And I would like to add that this is a qualitative research. We wanted to add a few more interviews, but due to the time constraint, we could not add them. But inshallah, we'll soon add the interviews and we'll publish our research paper. That is all from my side. Thank you so much.
Inshallah, dear Iman, thank you so much. Yes, diversity of contributions were very enlightening, mashallah, from different countries. In fact, I remembered my old days when Islamophobia came to my agenda, unfortunately, about the hijab ban problem. I'm talking as a person who was in the middle of the problems in 1998 and 1999 at Istanbul University. So seeing such PhD candidates like Meryem Khan gives me big hopes for the future, alhamdulillah. And it's also the fourth symposium, so which means we, inshallah, we will do a lot with leaders like Professor Sami Al-Aryan. I'd like to summarize the speaker's speeches very briefly, and then I'll open the floor for Q&A. Inshallah, you can ask your questions to them. I'd like to start with Mr. Noor Mohammad. He started with giving examples from ayats, especially it took my attention. It was wonderful beginning from Fussilat, Surah Fussilat, the 14th verse. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يُلْحِدُونَ فِي آيَاتِنَا لَا يَخْفُونَ عَلَيْنَا. Indeed, those who abuse our ayats are not hidden from us. It reminded us to control, to check our hearts. Maybe it was not only for the Islamophobes, but also for Muslims to check our hearts again. And he mentioned about the muttaqis who deserve Jannah. Inshallah, we all deserve Jannah with our good intentions in this symposium. He mentioned about a serious dislike towards Muslims, towards Islam, rising not only in non-Islamic countries, of course, but also in Muslim majority countries like Turkey, like he mentioned Bangladesh. Of course, it always brings new ideas about Turkey as well in my mind. And he also mentioned about, of course, we all know Bangladesh is a very hugely populated country, approximately 165 million people population. He mentioned the percentages of Muslims, Hindus, and Buddhists, Christian, and other religions, like 91 is estimated to be Muslims, and 8% Hindus, and 1% the rest, comprise Buddhist and Christian and others. According to him, he says, he underlined that a religious person means the person who follows religion correctly, prays 5 times a day, he says, he reminds us, and we remember what to do again. And he made a definition in his presentation. I saw that the Islamophobists in Bangladesh means atheists. They declare their dislike towards Islam and Muslims, and they do it condemning fundamental creeds like becoming against Al-Isra, Miraj, Day of Judgment, Jannah and Jahannam, and so many other components. So it was a very good presentation. And Meryem Khan and Noor Fatima, they presented us a general view, general looking at the policies of the Bharatiya Janata Party, which is currently in power in India since 2014. And they try to present us how does this party promote Islamophobia in state policy and increase social cleavages among Hindus and Muslims by adopting identity politics. And the 3 important characteristics she mentioned, it was, the characteristics of right-wing populism, the conceptions, the people, the elites, and others, if I understood correctly. And the last presentation was by Hafsa Ijaz and Iman Mujahid. Iman presented their presentation to us, and it was a qualitative research presentation. They showed us how representation of Islam and Muslims are misrepresented in popular media, and how media is powerful. We saw it again. And also, it was a very good example about the Moroccan players on Sujood, and how the anchor from TV2 News from Denmark, how he resembled it or showed the picture related to monkeys. It was really bad for my heart. It touched my heart, So, of course, it's not only Denmark, like Germany, France, and many other countries we see. And I remembered the earthquake. You remember the Charlie Hebdo. It was written a big sentence. We don't need we don't need the tanks. Turkey is already collapsed, they said. It was the biggest message for Islamophobia in the recent days. And another one I remember, I really would love to mention it. People, Islamophobists in Turkey, they tweeted with the sentence that the Arabic Peninsula is pushing us to Western Peninsula. Have you seen it, Professor? It was really very important for Islamophobic components in Turkey. So thank you very much for wonderful presentations, and I open the floor for Q&A if you have any questions. Yeah, it was, I know, after lunch and after Iran. It happens to me in all conferences. Okay. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you very much for all presenters. I have a question for each. First, for the doctor in Bangladesh, is he with us? I think he's not with us anymore. Oh, he left us. Okay. All right. So for the Indian situation and the BJP, you mentioned there is about 8.5 million Indians in the Gulf. That's a huge weapon. I wonder if you have any kind of thoughts about how they could be utilized. In the last presentation, there was talk about OIC recommendations and things of that sort, which I think because of the pressure that the Muslim minorities in India, particularly in Kashmir, are facing. This is a huge weapon. When you talk about the amount of capital they send every year, the amount of funds they send every year to India, I'm sure it's going to have a great impact on changing policies. I wonder if that would work, from your standpoint, if anything. And secondly, if there is anything about resemblance between what the Indians are doing in Kashmir and what the Israelis are doing in Palestine, if there is any parallel there. And for the last presenter, again, I think it was very comprehensive and good overview, but when it comes to actual policies of how to handle this in the future, I think what we need to do is to learn from the past in order to prevent this from coming in the future. I haven't seen much of the recommendations that how we're going to handle such an onslaught that was taking place. If there is any idea there, also would like to see if they can be presented.
So Professor, you talked about the Indian diaspora, and then you talked about the Israel and Palestine, Israel and Kashmir model, if they have any linkages. So I think both of the topics are linked. If we talk about the Indian diaspora, we see that the biggest market of India is Middle East, including Dubai and rest of the countries like Bahrain. And if we see that Muslim countries are basically helping India a lot, there are two mandars in Dubai. On the other hand, obviously, India is adopting Israeli model in Kashmir when it comes to if we talk about Article 370, it is basically the migration of Indians towards the Kashmir and to change the demography of Kashmir. But on the same side, and obviously India and Israel are strategic partners, nobody is basically talking about it when it comes to their collaboration. Muslim states are basically helping India in all fronts. Talking about Israel, the Abraham Accords shows the same thing. With Abraham Accords, when Bahrain, Qatar, Sudan, Morocco, they basically signed an accord with Israel, not Qatar, I'm sorry. So when they signed an accord with Israel, it is basically validating the atrocities which Israel is doing in Palestine. So what is strengthening Islamophobia in both Israel and in India is the Muslim countries, in my opinion. So what we should do is that we should think about it again and think that how OIC and rest of the countries can make a blog against the Islamophobia in India and in Israel. Thank you so much.
Meryem, maybe Noor Fatima would love to say something. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, I agree with what Meryem said. The only one point I want to add that role of United Nations is different in case of Kashmir and in case of Palestine, because for United Nations there are resolutions available for resolution to resolve the issue between India and Pakistan and the fate to decide the fate of the Kashmiris, whereas United Nations doesn't seems to be very much in favor of any kind of a solution given the Middle East. So that is, I think, a main difference of the genesis of this issue that I wanted to add. Thank you.
Iman with us? Maybe she would love to answer Professor Ariane's comment.
Yes, sure. I completely agree with what Ms. Meryem said. The Muslim nations need to be really strong. We need to form a strong bloc against India. I mean, not against India, but of course to counter the threat that we are, sensing from there, and of course also from the Western world or from all the Islamophobic entities. So yes.
Okay, thank you so much. Do you have a few words about the research? I mean, Professor Samuel Ariane spoke about your results, I mean, your qualitative method and maybe more clear results we need. Would you allow to comment on it a little bit more?
Yes, sure. So I just mentioned in the end of my presentation that right now we just conducted a qualitative research on the basis of the secondary data that was available. We wanted to conduct interviews, but we could not due to time constraints. So the recommendations that I presented right now were just on the basis of the secondary data that we have collected. We would add more substantiate and strong recommendations once we have quite a number of interviews, so that we get different opinions, and the basis of which we can formulate our recommendations. But for now, I think these are very strong recommendations. And of course, the role of international organizations is very important. But I always believe that whenever we mention international organizations, it in itself is a paradox, because they are always on the side of the Western Bloc. So of course, the Muslim world needs to do something on its own. We need to be united on our own, because Islamophobia is not the problem of Qatar only. It's not the problem of Pakistan only. It's the problem of the entire Muslim nation.
Thank you. Maybe.
To understand what experience or what lessons they learned.
Inshallah. Iman, I think
I did not understand. I did not understand. Could you please repeat?
Microphone, please. He's talking about the collaboration of.
It would be a good idea for you to contact the Foreign Ministry of Qatar to learn, to see what lessons. No? Yes. All right.
Foreign Minister of Qatar, what?
Qatar.
On right.
Yes.
Okay. I was suggesting that we have some representatives here also from Qatar. You can probably try to connect with the Foreign Ministry of Qatar and to understand, you said about field interviews, so that you know what lessons they learned and you can incorporate that in your paper, because I'm sure they also have assessed the situation and probably they have their own conclusions, which can also augment your paper.
And
definitely,
maybe Minister of Foreign Relations with Cultural Relations as well.
I think this would be a wonderful opportunity for me. And I would definitely want to know their insights and what their opinions are on this. How can I get in contact with him?
Talk to your session coordinator.
Okay, we will talk about it later, inshallah. Maybe it's not only contacting him, maybe you will contact with the Bint Nasser, Musa Bint Nasser. She's also interested in such projects. Later, we will contact, inshallah, about it. Now, the floor is just only for questions and answers, because any other questions related to the session, to our speakers? Okay, then we can close the session. Saima, thank you very much for attending us, joining us.